Good morning around the Diamond family. Welcome back for another episode. It is me, Grand Slam Sam, here with Baseball Bill, and we have a special guest with us here in the clubhouse today. First and foremost, Bill, how are you doing on this beautiful Saturday morning?
I'm great. I got my orange juice in my Grinch mug. So what more do I need?
Bringing Christmas early. I love it.
Bringing Christmas early.
Love it. And as I mentioned, we have a special guest in the clubhouse today that, Bill, you have a very close relationship with. Why don't you give us a little intro?
I do. So this is Jackson Westfall. You guys are actually going to be able to see him on camera now. He and I co-host the weekly review that drops on Saturdays. So you will learn that Jackson and I and Sam all have faces for radio, but we're okay with it. We're totally okay with it. We're loved by our moms and our wives, so we're good, right?
That's it.
But Jackson is awesome. I've known Jackson for, gosh, 15 years. Great guy. So I'm just excited to have you on today, Jackson, and talk a little free agency market.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I'm
Jackson, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited to hear your insight into the primary main topic of discussion this morning. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into this amazing episode. We are talking free agency baseball this morning. And it has been a whirlwind of a week. So I know some of these may be out of date as we go through them. Don't mind it. These were made a couple of days ago, but let's just go start off with the infield. So, Bill, what do you see are the biggest shining lights in this infield free agency market?
So I'm gonna take it. I'll answer that question, but I'm gonna take it a little differently. So I'm gonna tell you what something that shocked me. Jackson, you're a Braves fan. Wilson Contreras is looking at signing with either the Braves or St. Louis, who St. Louis tends to have older catchers that they stick around with. So that one was a little shocking when I read that. But to answer your question, Sam, if I'm looking at this presentation here and I'm looking at these people and I'm looking at different websites here, shortstop's packed, right? Everybody wants
Mm,
a shortstop. Everybody thinks that a shortstop will answer their calls. Obviously I have my own personal feelings about that, but shortstop is pretty packed. I'm also surprised that Anthony Rizzo is going to test the free agent market. I think he would be better suited to go back into the Bronx and just say, okay, boys, what do you want to pay me? Right. But
mm.
that one was a little shocking.
Yeah, Jackson, what do you think about this free agent market? Because you guys are in a very interesting position in the Braves territory right now with
Yeah, I'm.
your seeing what's coming in free agency. So what do you see?
I mean, I think the Braves need some more pitching in the outfielder, but I think I talked a little bit about this with Bill the other night. But I think they might let Dansby Swanson walk because of the price tag. My thought is if you're going to let Dansby walk because he wants 25 million, you might as well pay a guy like Xander Bogaerts 25 million. I think he's
Mm.
going to be. I think he's probably the most underrated shortstop of the three. No offense to Trey Turner. Maybe some offense to Carlos Correa because I think he's very overrated. But
Yes.
you
God
know,
bless you, Jackson.
Xander Bogaerts is a five-time Silver Slugger. From 2018 to 2022, he's averaged in an 162 game season, 184 hits, 45 doubles, 27 home runs, 101 RBIs. And to me, that's any. I mean, his defense isn't like the best, but he's serviceable enough most years. So I think the team that gets Xander Bogaerts is going to be a very lucky team.
And that is why you are the stats guy, because I could
Oh.
not pull any of those numbers out. um, I agree. I think the shortstop market is jam packed with talent and a lot of talent, and it almost makes people wonder like what is going to happen with all of this talent, as well as all the youth that's coming out of these teams that has all of that. And something else to keep in mind around the Diamond Top Fan family is remember that comp picks have already qualifying offers have already gone out to their players. And for people that don't recall, if a qualifying offer is made on a player and that player declines the qualifying offer and is signed and picked up by another team, that team now has to give their a draft pick, over to the team that presented the qualifying offer. So, this market is going to be saturated with qualifying offers that I think these players are going to be more than happy to reject because they want big money and they don't care if they're going to have to give a draft pick away. But I think there will be some teams that fall into that. Do we want to give up our youth, or would we rather pull a veteran and have to sign him for long term? Because it's similar to what you guys said, Dansby Swanson wants a ton of money. They're going to let him walk. Now, he doesn't have a qualifying offer, but do you give out all that money to him, or do you?
I mean, he did get a qualifying offer. And
Okay.
From a note on the qualifying offers, I think Trey Turner does have a slight edge as the most attractive one because the Dodgers have exceeded the luxury tax the last couple of years. The draft pick you have to give up to the Dodgers is only a fourth rounder rather than a first or second rounder is what it usually is. Right. So with that knowledge, I think a lot of teams are going to be in on Turner.
Yeah, I think. And now here's the real question: which Turner, though? Because to be honest, and Bill and I talked about this just yesterday. Trey Turner. I mean, Trey Turner is going to command a ton of money, but I think giving up Turner on the third baseline for the Dodgers was a understandable option, declining it. But I'd like to see him come back and finish up in the Dodger uniform. I think that's where he's meant to be.
He will. So his club option was $16 million this year, and the Dodgers turned it down just so that they could get him negotiated down to 8 to 10 million, maybe 12 million. Right. He did. You guys, I'm going to make a pretty unpopular statement here between the three of us, and I'm sure followers. When it comes to shortstop, I think it's going to be a lot like it was on Tuesday. We spent hundreds of millions of dollars, and nothing changed in the U.S. Senate. I think Bogaerts is going right back to Boston. They're already in kind of heated discussions. I think at the end of the day, Trey Turner is going to go back to the Dodgers, although Bryce Harper is trying to court him over to the Phillies, and they're good buddies. And I think that Dansby, once he realizes that well is kind of drawn to a close, he'll come back to Atlanta. He's from Atlanta. So I think this one is fun to talk about, but I think at the end of the day, people are going to spend hours on end about talking about this, and I'd be surprised if anything changes. Now, Carlos Correa, I have no idea where he goes. If Trey Turner goes to Philly, then he's going to go to LA. But one of the options for Carlos Correa too, also, Sammy, was San Francisco. But I don't see how that plays this out. I mean, you got Brandon Crawford there, but Brandon Crawford's what, 34?
So Brandon Crawford only has 1 year left on his contract. I think even after his 1 year, I don't think he's going to play in another jersey. He grew up a Giants fan, born and raised, Bay Area boy. I think if he comes back on a 1 year contract, it's going to be kind of after next year.
Yeah.
It'll kind of be in a Clayton Kershaw type of area where he's like, just give me 1 year until I'm ready or until you guys are done with me, and then I'll retire. I think if they, being that this free agent market is so saturated with top name shortstops, the Giants' plan was that they can get a top name shortstop now that's willing to transition to second base for a year and then willing to go back to shortstop after next year. That would be the ultimate win for the Giants right now, to be able to pull in a Bogaerts, a Correa, or a Turner, or a Swanson and say, hey, if you're willing to play second base this year, you got shortstop guaranteed in the following year.
Only concern that I have with that is you just tried to compare a first ballot Hall of Famer in Clayton Kershaw to Brandon Crawford.
No.
Jackson, did you see him slide that in?
Time out.
Jackson, did you see it? Did you not hear it too?
I did not compare the two players from their playing stance when I'm comparing them to.
like Clayton Kershaw. I'm like, whoa, whoa,
in
whoa,
his
whoa.
whoa. In his contract terms, because as you and I have spoken about, Clayton Kershaw has specifically requested single-year contracts
Yep.
over the last
Yep.
couple of years. And that is where I would say Crawford could be in the same area as Kershaw, saying, I don't want to play anywhere else. And if you need me, I'm here. Give me a 1-year contract. And when you are done with me, I'll be done.
Jackson, what do you think about the much to do about nothing? Do you think that it's possible that these shortstops we're talking about go back to the same jerseys?
I think it is, but I think what what what's Dave always say? The definition of insanity is what?
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over and
Yeah,
expecting a
so
different result.
yeah, so 29 teams didn't win the World Series. So I think at least one or two of these teams is going to try to mix it up in some significant way. You have to.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking a lot about the shortstop market, but I also think this first base market is something to keep an eye on too. You know, you've got there are a lot of other big name free agent first basemen just other than these three guys I'm mentioning. And the other thing I always consider is I look at a first baseman as the first DH. You know, it's like
Yeah.
if you're not playing first, you're DHing that day. It's kind of like, or you're in the outfield, you know. So, I think while I can see Rizzo going back to New York, Rizzo, I've heard a lot through the grapevine, especially being on the East Coast, that Rizzo has a lot of animosity right now towards the Yankees, towards how they've treated some players. So I think it could be, unless they offer him a ton, a ton of money. I
Yeah.
think his relationships with other players, like Aaron Judge or some other players on other teams, are going to pull him away to say, I'd rather be in an environment that's not toxic, possibly. And growing up in the New York area, New York Yankee baseball, you have a standard to live up to. And some players don't want to have to be held to that standard of Yankee baseball and want to be able to say, I want to play baseball and have some fun. I don't want to have all of this commitment over my head saying, oh, because I have this jersey, I have to live up to this level. That's one of the reasons why you see players say, like a Sonny Gray. I believe he played for the Yankees for a long time, and when he left, he was like, "I'm a free man. I can be I can be myself again." There are a lot of players that like that feeling of being able to lift that weight off their shoulders from a Yankee ball club and be able to go play baseball in a fun environment. But we've talked a lot about infielders, guys, and
Before
let's
you get
kind of
off of that,
switch.
Sam, before you get off of that real quick, Jackson, let me see if I did this right. Brandon Belt is on this list too. So Brandon Belt, like Clayton Kershaw. Did I say that right?
Brandon Belt should retire,
Like
and
Clayton,
that's what I will say about that.
all I'm saying is Brandon Belt, like Clayton Kershaw. So I
No,
just want to make sure that I
no,
got the.
not anywhere close. Brandon Belt should retire. He's not. He's been too injury prone for the last couple of years, and we're not going to get into this argument.
Did I get that
But let's
right,
move over to
Jackson?
the
Did I
outfield.
say that right?
Let's move over to the outfield, guys. Now, this outfield market as well is pretty saturated in a lot of areas, and I think the biggest free agent on the market that everyone is really talking about right now is this guy, right?
Joey Gallo.
No, not Joey Gallo. Come on,
Oh,
what's going
AJ
on
Pollock.
here? I'm talking about this guy right here, Aaron Judge. He is his name is top on everyone's list. Everyone's wondering where he's going, but even still, you got a lot of big names in this free agent outfield right now. So, similar question to Bill, what you asked before, Jackson. I'm going to ask you that same question. Do you see a lot of these guys going back to similar teams, or do you see the outfield being completely different from the infield, where these guys will change the jerseys that they're wearing?
I feel like the outfield market, it has some flashy names, but I feel like it's really top heavy. I mean, Aaron Judge obviously is above everyone else. You got guys like Brandon Nimmo and Mitch Haniger. And then a little further down, you got like Benintendi and Myers. And then you got a little further down, you got some other guys. And then at the bottom, as far as offensive production goes, I'd even group Joey Gallo at this point with Kevin Kiermaier and Jackie Bradley Jr., where it's like you'd be lucky if he got on
Mhm.
base kind of thing. So I think the names are really flashy, but I don't think there's a ton of talent out there in the market. Obviously, a player like Adam Duvall, who you have there in left field, is coming off wrist surgery, so he's going to be a big question mark. I don't see him. He might go back with the Braves just based on the chance that nobody wants to roll the dice. I do think Aaron Judge might leave New York. I don't think the Yankees are willing to
Mhm.
back up the truck.
He didn't get one, right?
What?
Did Duvall get a qualifier in
No,
Atlanta?
he didn't.
Okay, so he would be going back on a free agent,
Yeah,
and drastically probably less, similar to probably what the Giants did with Jock Peterson, giving him like something like a $6 to $8 million 1 year contract, just
yeah,
to kind of get his feet back under him.
yeah.
Um, you know, and I think, me personally, a lot of this could be over the years. Like some of these guys just got put in bad team situations, and maybe not based on their play. Bill, when you look at some of these guys here who have been playing on their teams for some time, or maybe came over through the trade or on 1 year contracts, do you think some of these players like a Jackie Bradley Jr. or a Joey Gallo or even a Benintendi could could be better on other teams than where they were at in the season, and that could be why they're gonna make the move? Or do you think it's like, hey, I can be good on this team, I just need another shot?
Yeah, no, if your last name isn't Judge right now and you're in the outfield, nobody's paying attention to you because everybody wants to know where Judge is going first, because that will determine which teams have the cash flow. Personally, I do not think Aaron Judge is right in LA because there's a lot of other free agents that we're going to have next year and the season after in LA that we may not be able to get back if we get Aaron Judge. But to your
Mm-hmm.
question, yes, I do think some of those guys like Jackie Bradley Jr., Benintendi, like Nemo, I think he's happy in Queens. Like he looks good in
Mm-hmm.
Queens. He plays well in Queens. They like him in Queens, right? So, or Flushings, I guess, or whatever, same thing. Um, the sorry New Yorkers, I didn't mean to offend you. Um,
you they're used to it.
if you're wondering what my address is, it's in Philadelphia. It's right next door to Sam. No, so a lot of those guys are, yeah, it'll depend there. The ones that are interesting to me are in the outfield are the ones that still have a little petrol in the tank that nobody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Pollock is one of those guys. Um,
Yep.
Jock Peterson. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right. AJ Pollock, like Clayton Kershaw. Jock Peterson, like Clayton Kershaw. He still has petrol in the tank. Jackson Profar. That one surprised me that San Diego didn't make more of an effort there. And
Mm-hmm.
then our favorite person to play fantasy baseball with, Tommy Pham. Um, you know, I'm surprised that he's on that list too. Just and there's guys on here like Kevin Profar or Kevin Pillar who probably won't see a huge contract because of injuries. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there, but a lot of it is going to determine Dexter Fowler, Cole Calhoun. A lot of it's going to determine. It's going to come straight down to where does Aaron Judge go, because then you know where the cash is freed up, right? And
Yes,
so,
agreed. I think that's I couldn't agree with you more in that area. I think, yeah, it's a judge's market at this point. And yeah, I
what
think based
what
off that, everyone else will figure out where they're at.
and what we never take into consideration, quasi analyst or baseball purist, we never take into account. We may take into account the business of baseball outside of being so. There's the fandom, and then there's business baseball, but we
Mm,
never take into account the way that this affects the player, right? Aaron Judge may be best suited in LA, San Francisco, or New York, but his wife may be, and I'm just making this up, but his wife may be from Columbus, Ohio, and the Reds offer him a sweet contract, and she wants to raise their kids in, Ohio, and next thing you know, randomly he's signing with the Reds, which makes no sense to us,
To
but it
anyone.
makes perfect sense to him as a family guy. So we don't take into consideration that stuff too.
I, that's a fantastic point. And to
No, because I
bring
said
it
it.
back into the judges,
No,
bring
I'm
it back
just
into what like a judge, that's why San Francisco has always looked like the best option for him. His mom, his dad, he grew up in San Francisco. His wife's from San Francisco. They're already raising their family in San Francisco, in an hour outside the Bay Area. He's back there every off season. That's why. But at the same point, you're right. These players, we always look at it from, well, it's money and it's business and they're going to take the most money, whatever. But who's to say that you know there isn't some other underlying thing that's saying this is why I'm going there, this is why I'm going here. And I mean, Bryce actually made a best point because Bryce was offered an equivalent contract to what he got in Philly in San Francisco, but he wanted to go to Philly because I believe his wife grew up around that area and he wanted to, that's where they wanted to be. So, yeah, these other underlying options are what
well,
I
and
think is interesting to.
it is, and you take the Dodgers for example. You take the Dodgers for example, and they have a lot of the players live in Newport Beach, right? And that's a great school system,
Mhm.
right? So if you want to raise your kids in a great school system, maybe you come down there, you buy a house next to Freddie, and life's good. So there's a lot of moves there that can be made.
100%. Now looking at this pitching market, it's really interesting because some of these free agent pitchers, we know Kershaw re-signed a 1 year contract with the Dodgers. He's going to be heading back there. But these pitchers and these designated hitters are quite shocking, and really, I think what's crazy to think about is what's happened. Let's just look at what happened with this World Series team. Their GM left. They fired their AGM. They're losing players that are opting out and not taking qualifying offers like Verlander and Brantley's free agent. But looking at all these different tools and pieces that are out there, what's this market going to be? And where are these guys going? Jackson, like, what do you think? Because I know you mentioned that the Braves are looking probably need some extra pitching. So,
I do know that Jacob DeGrom has been heavily linked with Atlanta. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in talks with Carlos Rodon as well. I do think Atlanta maybe might try to move away from Kenley Jansen if they can get a guy like Craig Kimbrell. I
Jackson, you guys just signed Nick Anderson, the former closer for the Rays.
Yeah,
So
that's a good pickup. They got him for virtually nothing. He is coming off a tough couple of years of injuries, but those are the kinds of pickups that help round out the bullpen. I do think they're going to go for a top arm because they could use Raisel Iglesias as the main closer, but I think they'll go for another power arm because that's what the back end of the bullpen really lacks is another kind of power guy. But as far as the starting pitching market, I think if you're the Braves, why not go in all on DeGrom only for the fact that start a bidding war with the Mets and or maybe drive him somewhere else to get him out of the division.
hmm. Now, Bill, you made a point about DeGrom yesterday on our IG Live. And I really want you to kind of bring that point back up today. And then in comparing that point that you made yesterday with a guy like a Carlos Rondon, who would you go after in that comparison? And
Rendon,
I'd love to hear you bring that, kind of just bring the point back up and kind of just quickly reiterate what it was we spoke about to let the family know.
Rendon. So Jackson, let me ask you this. Let's say you're pulling the purse strings for Atlanta. DeGrom says, I want a 5-year deal and I want it for $150 million. Are you going to do that?
They're probably not going to do that one. No,
Okay.
I think they'd go for a shorter deal.
Okay, so Jacob deGrom, 82 wins, 57 losses in his entire career. He has started 11 games last season. The season before, he started 15 games. The COVID year, he started 12 games. And every year before that, he started in the 30s. Last year, he started 11 games and was 5-4 with an ERA of 3.08. Jacob deGrom is not awesome. Like, he's awesome when he's healthy, but he's not awesome. And he doesn't, in my opinion, sorry, Jacob, if you ever listen to this, my bad, give me a call. We'll have lunch. And, you can tell me otherwise. But if he goes to
It's on
Atlanta,
Bill.
Jackson, I wouldn't pay him more than 20 million a year, and I wouldn't pay him more than 20 million a year for 2 seasons back to back with a club option for a third. I just wouldn't. Like, if you look at his stats, Jackson, it's scary how good he's not. I mean, he's the same age as Clayton Kershaw, who everybody keeps saying, oh, he's injury prone. Clayton Kershaw has 197 wins in his career. To Jacob deGrom's 82.
All right. Wins are a team stat, right? As we all know. I'm about to say something that may or may not be controversial. The Mets sucked. All right. The Mets were terrible before 2015. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That's it. Get Sarah on the phone. Get Sarah on the phone.
That's fine. I'll be more than happy to pick her up. But you're 1,000% right. Up until 2015, they were not a good team.
Yeah,
and
then I want to add one more thing to that.
Yeah,
real quick. deGrom also has half as many innings pitched as Clayton Kershaw in his career, so there's a lot less mileage on the arm.
I think every starting pitcher other than Verlander has half as many innings pitched as Clayton Kershaw. We're just going to leave that as
But to your point, Jackson.
In my opinion.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
No.
I was just going to say, to your point, Jackson, he's got as many injuries as Clayton Kershaw, and Clayton Kershaw's got double the innings pitched, right? And they're the same age. They're both 35. So it's scary. But, I mean, that's a good argument, Jackson, that you're making. But like I'm saying, if he goes to the Braves, which I think would be great as a division rival that he goes there, again, heavy laden contract on bonuses and incentives and club options. I would not give him $50 million a year, even $35 million a year.
Yeah, I would front load it or go very short, just because the Braves need to re-sign Max Fried in a couple of years, and there's some other contracts they need to keep an eye on. So I don't think the Braves get him unless it's a short contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. Sorry, we cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, my feeling, Carl Rendon is the best pitcher, overall pitcher coming out of this free agency class. There's currently active that's not been re-signed, meaning taking out Kershaw because he's been re-signed. And right now, if you're talking about base pitchers right now, not career-wise, right now in the game, I think Carlos Rendon, off of his numbers last year, is the best pitcher moving forward out of any of the ones out of the free agency class. He's got the most time left to play out of any of them because they're all pretty much over 30. And he's proven himself to be a double-digit winner multiple years. He was in the Cy Young consideration before the Giants started to take a major downswing after the All-Star break. I think if you look at if you look the next 5 years, Carlos Rendon is going to be an all-star pitcher. And a name we're all going to be talking about for the next couple of years in the pitching role.
So I'm going to argue this point for a second, and I'm bringing Jackson in on this since he's the stats guy on this. Okay, I'm going to argue this point. Your longest left in the Petro, maybe. But don't forget Zac Efron's on that list, and he's younger. But
Zac Efron, are we talking about the actor?
Zach
Eflin, however you say his name, right? But here we go. Who's, based on your original comment, the best one out there? No, he's not. He's not. Now, the longest out there left in the tank, yeah. Why I say he's not the best? Who had a better season than him? That's on this list.
Verlander.
Thank you. Verlander. Thank you.
But yes, Verlander had a better season on this list, but Verlander's also only got maybe 2 to 3 years left. And I'll say the same thing I said yesterday. Verlander's next contract should be a 3-year contract with the second and third year being club options. No questions asked.
Once
if this man if anyone gives him a 3-year contract with even the third, and I'd even stretch it to say, even if you gave him a first and second year contract with the third year being a club option, there needs to be a club option listed in that contract. No question.
Once you said with the time left, I agree with you. But when you first originally started and said, this is, he's the best out there. No, he's not. I mean, Verlander is going to be the Cy Young Award winner for this year. Rendon's not.
I'll give you that. Yeah. No, and you're 1,000% right. Yeah. I think, yes, taking back what I
Top fans, you got to join us on this Round the Diamond thing. This is where we debate each other. And Jackson just smiles and laughs and pulls out a few stats. I love it. And Jackson's got the best out of us all.
I mean, I have some stats pulled up right now, but I'll save them for it. I mean, I was going to say, you're talking about injuries. I just double checked. Since 2019, DeGrom has more starts and more innings pitched than Carlos Rodon. So if you're really worried about the injury bug, I'd be worried about it with him. And DeGrom's been a lot better, so you might as well roll the dice with the guy that you know is going to
dance with the devil, not the devil, that you came with, right?
But again, do you take the guy that's 5 years older and maybe only has 3 to 5 years left, or do you take a guy that you could give an 8-year contract to and could probably produce for all 8 of those years, getting you double-digit wins and I truly believe probably less injuries than DeGrom was?
I mean, it's a tough call because you never know. If we knew the future, we wouldn't be here talking about baseball.
We'd all be GMs and and managers like Bill and I. Those are the positions Bill and I turned down at right before the season started. I thought of being a GM and I said, fuck it.
Yeah.
Listen, all we need is Gray Sports Almanac and we'll be good.
Yeah.
That's true. Now, before we jump off of this, we've talked a lot about the pitchers, but what about these DHs? You've got these 3 DHs right here, Mancini, Brantley, and Martinez are, huge names. But as I mentioned before, especially with the infielders, and the outfielders, you've got like guys at first base that will go in and play DH. You've got guys on both, I would say both the corner positions are going to come in and be a second or a third DH. And then you've also got these guys in the outfield corners in the same position. So would you combine this DH market with some of these other infield, outfield positions and say, like, this DH market goes from being this big to this big? Or are you saying, like, these are DHs, they're not going to play any other position, and these are the best ones that you're going to get?
I mean, I think there is some overlap. I think the front runners are JT Martinez and Jose Abreu. I think they're very similar players. Both have a ton of pop. They are, doubles hitters. The shift's going to help them out a lot. It's going to help them get a lot more singles. They're not going to roll over quite as much because they are very pull heavy. And I just think, the shifts is going to help a lot of these slow guys out. You can hit the ball hard somewhere and you still get a hit.
Yeah. And I think even more, that's going to play into a lot of these free agents and their qualifying offers and them accepting them or not. Because, the Giants weren't going to originally offer Joc Pederson a qualifying offer. However, based off his hitting, his batting average, and him being the top hitter for the year, as well as the shift no longer being there, it became much more enticing for the Giants to qualify Joc Pederson because they know he'll benefit from the shift. Whereas a guy like a Brandon Crawford next year may not benefit from the shift being pulled because now he's limited to his zone. So it could hurt him next year in free agency now that there is no show.
Yeah, you didn't say that right, though. It's Brandon Crawford like Clayton Kershaw, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. Everyone's compared to Clayton Kershaw.
So there's three people on this list that I really like that are worth signing to something. And even if they're 1 year deals with club options on them, I like Matt Carpenter. He proved that he's still got some gas in that tank. I have always liked Andrew McCutcheons. I've always thought Andrew McCutcheons was awesome. And I like Trey Mancini. So I hope all three of those guys land someplace. Obviously, JD Martinez is going to land someplace. Justin Upton will land someplace, but I like those three guys I just mentioned.
Who do you think, Jackson, is the, my final question, looking at all the free agents out there, pitchers, hitters, position players, everything like that. Who is in your opinion, the overall best free agent on the market?
I mean, it seems kind of redundant. It's probably Aaron Judge. If you have the money to sign Aaron Judge, you should try to sign Aaron Judge. I know the last 3 years of that contract's probably going to suck, but having the DH now is probably going to help him stay healthy, especially
100%.
if you have a good training staff, and a good coach that's able to rotate him in it. Yeah, rotate him in and out of the lineup correctly. I mean, there's no reason to think he can't have 5 more productive years in the tank. So, you sign him for 8-9 years, you get 5 good years. He's just going to be a good.
Move him to DH.
Yeah, you can just slide him over when his legs eventually give out.
But, Bill, same question.
Most important free agent, I guess. I'm not the Aaron Judge guy on this. To me, I go back to the shortstops, and if I were saying the Dodgers, it's Trey Turner. If I'm saying any other team, I'm saying Dansby, Bogey, Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, those guys. I think Aaron Judge's price tag is a little high, but I think it's a little high for a good reason. I mean, he deserves the money that he's going to get.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue that you run into, so take the Dodgers, for example. You put him in right field, you move Mookie Betts to second base, but you have to pay Aaron Judge $39 million a year. What are you going to do next year when you have to sign Julio Urias? What are you going to do next year when other contracts come up? Clayton Kershaw, when Will Smith's contract comes up, when Cody Bellinger's contract comes up. If you're blowing all your money on an outfielder, which, by the way, the Dodgers are stacked in the outfield in the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you right now, Sam, let's make a little friendly wager. Okay. If Aaron Judge goes to the Giants, Jackson, you're my witness on this. If Aaron Judge goes to the Giants and in his first season in San Francisco, he hits more than 40 home runs, I will buy you and Carrie dinner next time I'm with you. If not,
I will take that bet.
If not, reasonable. I'm not taking you out to a 9-course meal in Manhattan.
Oh man, I was hoping like Capital Grill Del Frisco's type meat. Like I'm thinking high end.
But
me on
if
the
not, you have to take you have to take me out.
A collect palate.
Yeah.
Deal.
If not,
I'll make that deal with you. Jackson, you're the witness.
All right. I'll go get it notarized.
I'm in.
If he goes to the Giants,
real quick,
he won't hit more than 40 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
His first season. Guarantee it.
We'll see what happens. My opinion, obviously I want to sign Aaron Judge. I think he might be the most important agent out there. However, not putting my personal feelings aside, I actually think Trey Turner may be the most important free agent out there, because I think where he goes, you're going to be watching whatever team he goes to closely for the next couple of years, because they're going to dominate. So let's kind of just wrap up. We're gonna wrap up, Top Fans. We're going a little bit over, so we got a jam-packed podcast schedule coming this week. Bill, kind of want to take us through this real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So Monday, Jackie, who's an Astros fan, she's been on before. She's phenomenal. She's going to be talking about what it was like to be at Game 6. the atmosphere, winning the World Series, that type of thing. Went on Tuesday, there's some free agency talk where there's going to be a number of guests on. Wednesday, we'll drop an Angels talk where we've got 3 Angel fans that are on. That one's going to get a little unique. Sam, you'll appreciate that one because most of them, will talk like they're from Jersey, and I have to remind them, okay, hey, wait a second, there's kids that are listening to this. That one you'll enjoy. Thursday will be some Orioles talk with a guy named Dale, who grew up in Baltimore, and Joe, who runs Wax Packs and Whiskey on Instagram. Joe's been on before.
As well as been a guest on our show.
Yeah, he has. And then finally on Friday, you're going to hear some discussion from several people. Sam, I believe you're on that one, right? On contemporary era.
I will be there, sir.
Yeah, and so Sam will even be a guest on that one, and we're going to talk about the contemporary era of Hall of Fame and where that works. So it's going to be an awesome schedule. Don't miss this stuff. Top Fan Rivalry followers, be good stuff.
Yes, I will definitely be tuning in all week, and then just real quick, guys, keep a lookout. I know Bill has been working his tail off, putting out some new merch for us. And Bill, can you kind of just reiterate what this Founders Club is looking like?
Yep. So Founders Club is something that we're running through at least the end of the year. We might extend it a little longer because we've seen some interest in it, but it allows you to get behind the locker room door currently at a substantial discount. Okay. If you've been a podcast participant, you're gonna get a little bit more of a discount because you put a little, blood, sweat, and tears into it. But the Founders Club will not only allow you to get access behind the locker room door, but it will guarantee a price that'll never go beyond $36 annually, which is great. It gives you first access to merchandise. It gives you first access to different articles and different things coming up. And there are a ton of articles that will be going up in the next several weeks that you'll want to see. So you want to get that locker room access. You want to get behind that door and visit and see what's out there. So there's where we're at. It's exciting times. And Jackson and Sam both have codes for it. We have a little different code that we're going to use for the Founders Club that Jackson and Sam will get a hold of. But yeah, I'm excited to announce that. I'm excited to be as fan involved as we possibly can for you Top Fan Rivalry followers, because that's the entire reason why Top Fan Rivalry was created, to give the fans a voice and the opportunity.
And we are happy that you were bold enough to create this platform for us to be able to come on and give us a voice. So from the bottom of my heart, Bill, I truly thank you.
Thank you.
And for the Diamond fans, I'm thank you for joining us. From me to you, I just want to say I'll see you on the field, and we'll catch you next week. Bill, Jackson, closing words?
Go Braves, and let's go get some pitchers.
I love it. I love it. I'll let Jackson have the closing word on that, except for Go Dodgers.
All right. Guys,
Thanks
again, thank you so much for joining us this week. See you on the field.